I know that I feel like this now, but eventually I'll get to a place where I can accept what's happening and feel better about it. Hey beautiful people, it's your girl Aylia and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is the second episode of Skincare and Talks with my therapist. In this episode, we're talking about the expectations I had of therapy versus what the reality is. Your girl was a little delusional about what therapy was going to look like, but we're gonna go ahead and dive in and talk about what I thought it would look like versus what it actually feels like and looks like to be in therapy. So for today's routine, I am using my Youth to the People cleanser. And then I'll be following up with the Cold Plunge Pore Mask. So I really do like using this mask. So it does have AHA in it, which is good for just like, you know, exfoliating. And then to tone, I am using the Aloe Calming Toner from the Body Shop. I'm using this toner today because I am using a chemical exfoliant, and so I want something that's really going to go ahead and calm my skin afterwards. And of course, I'm following up with the hyaluronic acid from The Ordinary. Today's moisturizer of choice that I'm using is the Adaptogen Moisture Cream from Youth to the People. And of course, following up with my Black Girl sunscreen. Let's get into the tea. What is it like to be in therapy versus what my expectation was of being in therapy? My first expectation of therapy was that my therapist was going to give me all the answers to my problems and my problems would be fixed. Therapy ain't like that, y'all. Therapy is not like that at all. So the reality is just that she's not giving me the answers to my problems. She's helping me and giving me the tools to find my own answers. And from there, we are working on like strategy and, okay, how can I implement these things that I'm learning into my daily life to help manage, you know, my feelings, my emotions, what does like effective goal setting look for me? What does it mean or look like to set a boundary? She's helping me find those tools. So she's not flat out giving me, here you go, here's a booklet of all the answers I have for you and your problems. Take it and run with it. No, she's giving me the tools that I need to help manage the things that I'm feeling and the things that I'm thinking. Honestly, this mask was definitely an impulse buy. It came up on like my recommendations on Sephora. And I just saw it like really blue and stuff. And I was like, I want a blue face mask. Why not? So this was definitely an impulse buy, but it is not. It actually, like, I really do like the feeling that it gives. Definitely gives like a spa like feeling. Like it definitely does like dry out my skin afterwards, and that's why I really have to make sure to follow up with like hydrating products. But it takes all of like the stuff out of my pores that was there and just does a good job at like, you know, keeping my skin clear of like extra like dry dead skin. Hey Siri, set a timer for 15 minutes. So my second expectation of therapy was that I'm going to go into every therapy session knowing exactly what I want to talk about. The reality is your girl ain't know a lot of times. A lot of times I walk into therapy and I'm just like, I have no idea what I want to talk about today. And that is okay. You literally do not need to know every single time what you want to talk about. There are times when I go into therapy and I do have my journal with just like thoughts that I wrote down the night before or like during the week, and I'm like, I kind of want to explore this thing a little more with my therapist. And then there are days where I'm just like, honestly, I don't know what I want to talk about right now. It really does force me to ask myself like, okay, Aylia, what's important to you right now? What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about this thing that happened at work this week? Do you need a good cry and you just want to use this session to cry? That has also come with like time and me getting comfortable with my therapist as well, because again, I was the type of person the first couple of sessions like bringing in this book and being like, this is what I'm going to talk about. And eventually there were times where I was like, actually, let me tell you about this thing that happened last night that got me a little, you know, fucked up. Okay, let's talk about that. The next expectation that I had of therapy was just that because she is a white woman, her and I won't be able to connect on just like matters of race and my experiences with race and me being a Black woman. The reality is she made it very transparent that she may never fully understand the capacity in which those things impact me because of that difference. However, she's still able to work with me on things relating to my race, and she just makes it very comfortable for me to express these things. I don't feel like I have to shield myself when talking about like, oh, like because this is happening at work and like it feels like microaggressions, and like it doesn't feel like I have to filter out anything when it comes to just like talking about how race impacts, you know, my daily life, my relationships, the way that I view myself versus the way that the world may view me. We're still able to talk about all those things, and what I appreciate is that she made it very clear, and we were just very transparent on like how comfortable I do feel talking about those things. I remember she asked me when I was explaining an incident to her that happened while I was visiting my sister in New Mexico. The topic of race did come up, and you know, she asked me, she was like, Aylia, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel comfortable talking to me about matters of race given the cultural difference between us? And when she answered that question and we opened up the floor to just like really tune into what that would look like, and how comfortable I feel, it really made me appreciate my therapist even more, because she is making it known that yes, like let's acknowledge the elephant in the room, and I am still very much able to talk to her about matters of race and feel comfortable talking to her about things that, you know, are racially involved. The next expectation I had of therapy, and this one I feel like is a big one too, because the way I used to view like how to heal and what healing would look like is crazy. But the next expectation that I had of therapy was just, I'm going to feel great. I'm going to live my best life once I am in therapy. And I'm going to feel great. Every time I leave my therapist's office, I'm going to feel fantastic. And, you know, I'm just going to feel this great relief. The reality is, most days when I go to therapy, I feel worse than when I started my session. So some days I'll walk in feeling terrible and I leave feeling even worse. And that's okay, because we're talking about hard things. We're talking about things that I've buried beneath the surface, deep beneath the surface. And a lot of new things are coming up. A lot of things that I have maybe forgotten about. A lot of things that I thought I was okay with and I healed through, but I didn't actually. So some days it is pretty hard, because like after therapy, I have work after. So I have to like work with really grounding myself after my sessions, and just like really, you know, getting back into a mode where I feel like I can show up to work the best way that I can. Some days I really do feel like, why did I even have this session today if it was just gonna make me feel like this? So yeah, it is okay for me to not be okay. And the more I'm vulnerable and honest in my therapy sessions, no matter how hard it is, I know that I feel like this now, but eventually I'll get to a place where I can accept what's happening and feel better about it. So the last expectation I had for therapy was that, okay, once I start going to therapy in person, I'm gonna be in this room that's really like aesthetically pleasing, and I'm gonna be laying on this big couch, and my therapist is gonna have like her notepad. I think I kind of like romanticized the idea of therapy a lot, or therapy in person a lot. So the reality, when I walked into the place where I go to therapy in person, and I walked into basically an office, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Now keep in mind, I do live in New York City, so we all know that New York City, it's like a pack of sardines just living on top of each other. Spaces are small, and so the space was very like, it was like it's like your typical office space. And even like the expectation that like she was gonna have a notepad and writing things down, that doesn't happen in therapy sessions anymore. I think like in the beginning when I was remote and we were like doing intakes, she would have her notepad just jotting some things down. But now in therapy, she doesn't use it. She doesn't use notepad. And also my therapy office just doesn't look the way that it just doesn't look the way that I thought it would look based on like things I've seen on television. So it's basically like an office, has a lot of natural lighting and stuff. And that for me was just a transition because again, I was expecting something, but the reality was like we would be sitting in chairs across from each other, and we tried out like different parts of the office that I was more comfortable in and what worked best for me. I'm transitioning back to remote sessions because of my new work schedule. So I'm gonna be in the comfort of my own home and stuff, and like that's just my preference of like, okay, I'm able to do my remote sessions. Y'all, I love dewy, glowy skin. If I don't look like a glazed donut, I did not do my skincare correctly. If my skin does not look like glass, I didn't do it correctly. All right, beautiful people. So this is the end of the second episode of Skincare and Talks with my therapist. If you did like this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me some things in the comment section. Do you have your own expectations of what you think therapy is versus what the reality was like for you? Let me know all of that beautiful stuff in the comments below, and I will see you in the next episode of Skincare and Talks with my therapist. Bye.